The Ishma documentary was actually a tribute project produced by the concerned artist of the Philippines for his 74th year birthday. And it so happened that the concerned artist of the Philippines was also founded by Bernal and of course Brocka. And they wanted to do a commemorative documentary encompassing, life and works from very professional to intimate perspectives of family members and collaborators. So we were just very happy that we were invited by the concerned artist of the Philippines to co-direct it. And the goal was to show it in as many schools all over the country. So again, just like your goal is to really bring the brilliance of Ishmael Bernal to the new generation.
Quite often, actually, it turns out we keep on joking that after each project we'll never work with each other again, but it hasn't happened in the last 15 years. So that seems to be how it is. But I think the lucky thing about what was so fortunate about the project was that, I mean, for me, those two gentlemen are the pinnacle of Philippine cinema. I mean, as a fan, right? So to have the opportunity to learn more about them, meet their collaborators, and just kind of get to know them in an intimate way, that was the biggest blessing, because I didn't have the opportunity to actually interact with them. I never met them. Right? So for me, the chance of this is your chance to get to know these people, which is why I feel compelled for things like this, because I want the younger guys, if I didn't get to meet them, how much more the younger generation, right? And my excitement was the same. So I feel like if the younger kids just knew how exciting these people were, and how important they are to our, not just art there, how important they are to our culture, our identity as Filipinos, especially the modern Filipinos. It was so important. So I was so happy when concerned artists approached us, and even specifically with, I did not know. I learned so much about Bernal even just researching his involvement. So there are things that they opened up, the world to who these humans were.
Also because I think they wanted to really have it was really for I think the main target was to present Bernal for his 70th year birthday. So kailangan may year-long, going around the school. So by the time Bernal, hits the 75th year anniversary, there would be so much more appreciation and more enlightened audience. On a personal note, also, Concerned Art of the Philippines is really known for their activist, political, social commentary position in society. With this collective of visual artists, filmmakers, writers. So in a way, I think they also wanted us to direct the documentary because we were aware of the political layers, and to also look at Bernal in a very unique lens, which is not just as a filmmaker, as an artist, but also as an activist. So that was, I think, one of the layer that we need to push.
Well, that was the biggest revelation.
Yeah.
That was a really.
He's activist.
So we did not just interview collaborators. We interviewed activists. We interviewed theater artists who were part of the underground movement, to show that Ishma was actually a very complex, very deep character. Despite his very broad, persona, very loud, he has this very deep connection to society, the problems, the struggle.
In fact, that's why I was saying revelation is the word, because you associate Bernal being the intellectual, and doesn't get his hands dirty, right? And you realize, oh no, he was actually a card-carrying member back in his UP days. I did not know in the later days that he was the one who was actually directing the community organized theater, community theater. So That's so apak sa lupa.
Yeah.
In that sense, which I did not expect at all.
Yes.
And he did it for a long time.
Uh-huh.
Right, that was the biggest surprise. Exactly, you'd expect Brocka would be the one who'd be
True.
doing those kinds of actions. It's like, no, it's actually Bernal, the intellectual.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, Bernal was, he just came from a very high, inspiring place as a film student in India, and then when he finally came to the Philippines, he wanted to contribute greatly, make a difference, no? So, I think part of that was really it reflected in his firm, his first film, Pagdating sa Dulo. Pero may political commentary because he was critiquing the producers, those who just wanted to profit. So may kita mo in his first film pa lang, medyo set na talaga yung views niya na he was not just going for, entertainment or for something like that will please the crowd, or make money for the studio. He wanted to make sure na meron siyang strong position. Even on women, single women, on prostitutes, on the industry, So I think it was and I think the friendship with Dino Brocka also was very important. It also influenced him. Diba? I think the family of Bernal were also thankful that Dino was the one who was making all this loud noise, always, in the nasarapan siya palagi ng mga rallies and all that. And I think that was very important for Bernal. But Bernal was also doing some political work, like through the documentaries. He made documentaries, which is political in nature. Na yun nga hinahanap namin hanggang ngayon. The deadline was there was a deadline, no, to make it right in time for his 74th birthday, which was September 1990. 2000. I forgot the year now. So we had to do it fast.
Yeah, but the process was interesting because at the same time, we were doing two Bernal projects at the same time. We were doing Ishma at the same time as Himala ngayon, which is just pure. I think pure. I don't know, kismet. I don't know.
Coincidence.
Ishma first.
No, we started. No, they're almost done at the same time. I think Himala ngayon was started first. But the thing was, because they were overlapping, we were literally, it was fantastic because then you got to really know him very well because you were doing one macro project on his life, right, which is Ishma, and then we were doing a micro and focusing, like deep diving into the process of making Himala at the same time. So it was very good. So whenever we were filming for either one, the other project was also informing the search. And that was really helpful actually because then you had a very, very it was a little bit more thorough understanding of the context of things because either we visited the locations and met the people he actually filmed, they're still alive from Himala, and recontextualizing it 40 years later. It's very powerful experience.
It was so wonderful and such a big honor because it was also Himala ngayon naman was to celebrate the 30th year anniversary of the Filipino classic film Himala, which was also voted by CNN.
Yes, CNN was
one of the best film for Southeast Asia, something like that. No? So imagine doing that and then doing a sort of like a bio documentary on Chino Bernal. It's amazing. Budget and of course the timeline was very hard. You had to do everything in a very, documentaries is usually immersive, diba? You have to spend time with the subject matter and you have to really go through the archives and the good thing naman was Concerned Arts of the Philippines, they also have their own staff and they really went all out. Like the national artist for literature, Dr. Glenn Lubera was one of the producers. He's a member of the Concerned Arts of the Philippines, and with Walkie Mirana as one of the executive producers. They really wrote to all the institutions like CCP, FDCP for a small funding. So, kaya gumagalaw. Otherwise, it would be so difficult for us.
They also did the initial legwork also even for some archives.
Yeah.
So I remember like trying to get the material from Mother Lily.
Yeah.
They already started that process. So in a sense, it wasn't from zero. It was compressed, very compressed, but it wasn't from zero.
Yung struggle namin also sa Ishma was where we were not able to interview Nora Honor because of her very busy schedule. As in, meron na kaming plan to ambush interview her sa set. Gano'n na. Pero buti lang sa Himala ngayon, she really gave her time. Well, because I think ABS-CBN and Cinema One Originals executive producer Ronald Arguedas really made sure that she would be available. Pero nung time nang ginagawa namin Ishma, we could not really get a hold of her.
Well, I tried too.
That's why we were, through the kindness of Sir Ricky Lee, furnished us audio interview of Nora. It's a great mix, because Ishmael Bernal back then was, of course, treated like God. He was like God. And he was worshipped, as a film director. He embodied, what a Filipino film director would be like, medyo terror, he has this huge presence, and you have to really be, but there were some collaborators like Benilde and who were more or less the opposite. He was not happy with the way he was treated. He was not happy with the treatment to the small actors or the crew. So it was very important to present that in the documentary. Otherwise, it would all just be really putting Ishmael Bernal in pedestal. So some of the interviewees or collaborators of Bernal really grounded the work, like the problems. Even production designer Raquel Vicencio talked about their, mga squabbles nila, the tension, which really humanized Bernal. Kasi Bernal is parang untouchable. And of course, Joel Amangan, oh my God, his stories.
Beautiful, because what Director Joel was saying was that he had both sides.
Yeah.
He showed you the best and the worst, in one experience, right? So that was really, kumbaga, the wonderful, intellectual, the wonderful director, and the terror he experienced firsthand.
Talagang, I was telling you earlier that lumuluhod na ako sa mga matriarchs, sa mga producers to allow us to use the clippings and to interview Mother Lily herself because she was the producer.
A lot of Bernal.
Her input was so important. And she's Mother Lily. Merong, as much as Ishmael Bernal had a very strong position on commercial filmmaking. So I love it that yung complexity.
I like it when she said, I was disappointed with the government that they did not allow the movie to be brought out. I think she meant Manila by Night.
Yes.
No, and for me, it painted a different picture of her because for me, I thought she was just money, profit. But here she was.
No, that was the most shocking thing when she said that. I remember all my preconceptions just disappeared because all of a sudden, oh no, she understands.
Yeah.
She understood the importance of the film. She understood the context at that time. I mean, everything about it was very crystal clear.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
and she made a stand somehow.
Speaking of painting totally different picture, Mother Lily. Also in the other documentary, Himala ngayon, you put together Amy Marcos, producer of Himala, and then you have Ricky Lee, political detainee, When the viewers saw the documentary, the interview on Amy Marcos, they were like, oh, witty pala siya. Oh, she's fun. Parang, ganon. The documentary opens so much breaks a lot of, you know, misconceptions. I don't know. So that's why it's important for me and Keith that when we interview our collaborators, is kailangan may banggaan palagi. You know, you have Joel Lamangan saying that yes, sabi ni Amy na pinalaya niya, she was instrumental to Joel Lamangan's freedom. Joel Lamangan contradicted. So it's up to the viewers, who would you believe, who would you trust? So that's why what we're doing, the documentary project, is something that is really to not just bring information, but to raise more questions on what really happened in the past.
True.
And this is important, especially when the people who lived the history are still around, because then it's not filtered. You can actually get their actual unedited, unexpurgated, unfiltered reactions to things. Because then it becomes very, very, again, it becomes complex. It's not just this line. It's like, oh, it's kind of gray. It's a little murky. It was amazing because when she started reliving it on the spot, you could see it. When the question was asked and she remembered this thing.
Was it both of you?
Yeah, we were both there, and she, that she time traveled, and she was talking, right? And so as she was saying everything, right, she was describing the scene, how she was feeling. So I remember we put this together in the edit, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's going, it's in sync. It's in complete sync with the scene.
Amazing.
And that was the most riveting. I'm getting goosebumps now, just seeing that happen, because you realize, oh my Lord, she really remembered every minute detail, but as if it was happening right then and there. That was absolutely astounding. I remember when she was talking about this, and she was really engaged. I mean, her eyes were lit up. And I was thinking, oh my
down
gosh,
to the detail.
Yeah, to like the moment, what she was feeling, right? This is what I was feeling. And I'm like, my Lord, she's really there right now. She's not here in this room. She's back there. And that was amazing.
That was, as I said in my email, that was already a gem in itself. The clip.
Yeah.
Because her face lit up. Just trying to remember that particular scene.
And she wasn't canned, like she wasn't, she's so used to being in front of camera. She's used to being very composed and all of this. And here she just, all the guard just came down. It's like, I think there's a deep love there, because even when she talks about him, like she will remember, one of her stories that she was recounting was, I think she just won a major award, right? The night before and the next day, she wasn't in the zone because she was just so high from winning the award. But he was the one, Ishmael was the one who was able to kind of put her back down on the ground and kind of get her back in the zone. And these are very particular things that not only did she learn, but the fact that tumatak eh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different level of registration in her as a human being, right? So I do think there's a deep, with everyone, I think. Everyone had whatever their position on Ishma, maybe it's for Ben. But there is a very deep, if not respect, there is a kind of love there. Even if it's complicated love, But I think it's very evident from everyone, from Vilma, from Elizabeth Mapesa, when they talk about him, even Eddie Garcia. Like there's this kind of warmth that's there.
There's really a lot of respect that exudes. Even that time there's this rivalry between Nora Honor and Vilma Santos. But when they work with Bernal,
exactly.
Remember the acting
that other scene also that she described. That was also somehow exact.
Yeah, but it was amazing. Who
Full
won?
shot.
Who won that? Sino nanalo sa scene na yun? Ako meron akong sarili ko.
Okay.
Pero I think
I'm gonna ask you.
Well, I cannot recall kung tinanong ko si Vilma, si Ate V, sino nanalo? Pero I have my own interpretation. That's the genius of Bernal. Because he gave so much at the same time without really spoon feeding the audience. It was very charming. When you watch it, like, oh my gosh, you won. Without telling you who won.
without any dialogue. There's no narration.
There's
There's no blurb in the end. Nanalo si so and so, diba? No.
Pero may kita mo, sa shot size, sa duration, also sa power ng angles, and who walks away.
Yeah.
Who stays, who walks away. Sino winner doon?
Yeah. That's the
I will not tell you. Of course, parang, for that particular film, you mentioned, they're the biggest star, at the same time, their craftsmanship that they put into their films, nandun pa rin naman kasi yung basic emotional, hugot, diba? It's the rivalry, it's the jealousy, it's two women fighting, but in their own subtle movements and behavior and all that. And that translates so well in Ishma's film, Minimalism. Kasi yun din naman yung style ni Ishma.
Yes.
Diba? Parang minimalist. So doon, na-integrate ko yun. And the viewers just really saw it, it's very clear.
I think it also has a lot to do with who the actors were.
Yeah.
Because they are the two biggest stars, there was a bit of a maybe open receptiveness from the audience to be like, we'll take whatever. We know it's not only is it at the guy at TV, but it's by Ishma, right? So there's a leeway, there's an openness there, and again with the subtlety, when you have two very good actresses like that, they can pull it off. I don't think anyone else could have done it that exact way, especially that last scene, yung walang usapan, and it's all just their gazes. That's like the riskiest way to end the movie, and it's pulled off so beautifully by the two of them. And I think it's really because of who was performing those roles as well. So it wasn't just the box office draw of the guy at TV being in the Ishma film. It's like these two people at the top of their craft, or these three people at the top of their craft, working together to make that specific film work.
Yeah.
And thank God the audience was open and receptive enough to that, diba? But it's a particularly special circumstance.
And it's also very empowering for women, parang Ishmael was not afraid to make a film about broken relationship, like broken marriage, about single moms, about the querida, diba? Parang lagi siyang may philosophical, political, social, moral na alam mong galing talaga sa strong position, because of how his mother raised him. So now that it's very clear that he was raised by a single mother.
Yeah.
And with an absent dad, just like Brocka had an absent father.
Yeah, and strong mothers.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So, on a personal level, I was able to, if I can share, I was able to meet him when I just finished my first short film, Asong Simbahan. There was a time when Bernal, he opened a cafe bar called Casalo. Diyan lang sa UP Village, di ba? And he was a waiter, he was entertaining, and he was just, serving the customers with beer. And he decided to make a short film program of the young filmmakers. And I was very, very honored na sinama niya ako doon. And he was so gracious. So that really touched me because for me, he was a giant. He was, and then suddenly he was there serving beer. He was wearing an apron. Ganun siya. Kaya niyang gumawa ng ganung klaseng pelikula, making a commercial successful film, and then make important iconic film like Himala. And at the same time, make time to mentor or to inspire the young filmmakers. And I love that. So hindi siya basta-basta nagdidirect lang ng film. He is really wala nang Bernal ngayon. diba? Parang it's not just about going to festivals. It's not just about making a lot of money or, breaking the box office. There's something about him na he's enjoying making film at the same time, he knows his position in society.
Mm-hmm.
Kilala niya yung kalaban ng ating lipunan. At the same time, he puts so much joy in making films. Iba siya. No, there can only be one Bernal, there can only be one Brocka. There's a lot of very brave Filipino filmmakers. Ngayon, nakikita ko they're mostly coming from the regions. The regional filmmakers are doing a lot of brave works. Maybe because they're not in the center. Maybe because they're away from the commercial, I don't know, they're on the edge, so they can really focus on their vision, what they want to say, and they can punch hard. They can critique, they can see strong, they can express strong opinions. Pero ngayon, parang the filmmakers have to sort of know how to play, dance, the cha-cha, especially under the new regime.
Well, for me, I don't think the medium is more diminished. I think there's probably just more available, so it's a little bit noisier in the sense that there you only had X amount of films to look at, and now you have thousands of or tens of thousands of films to look at. But the fact that the proliferation shows exactly how important and effective it still can be. I think that just shows its potency still. I think maybe the big difference is that precisely because there are no more Bernals or Brockas who are either loud enough or intellectually sharp enough to kind of make these kind of statements that maybe it feels blunted. I think the biggest thing, what's great about Bernal is that beyond all the lessons of, again, he's not just a director, right? He's a thinker. Very high craftsmanship, very all these things. He also did documentaries. He acted as well.
Yeah.
Right. But the biggest thing that made him, I think make both of them special, is they're purely human. I mean, these are Bernal is his humanistic side is, I think, what probably the biggest lesson, if there's anything, and that might be the lesson for younger people now, is that it's not about the fame or the Instagram followers or this. His thing was, here's my art, here's my work, here's my philosophical stance, right? Here's what I stand for. But he won't inflate himself so much that he won't serve people beers in his restaurant, right? That kind of dichotomy is what kind of gives him a really kind of holistic picture as a human being. And I think that's probably the biggest, most fascinating thing about him. It wasn't exactly. It's not what you're expecting. Like, you might learn some technique or you might learn some craft that he did as a filmmaker. It's actually his being human.
Well, I think cinema now has really opened up so much, a lot of ways to make films, to view films, and to define cinema. It also opened up how the film makers really value this medium. So I don't think that the bad thing is this medium it's being taken for granted. There's so much more that this medium can do. It's so young. Pero for some reason, the evolution of our storytelling, of our language, of our cinematic vocabulary, it's kind of not progressive.
Stop it.
Parang safe pa rin, may ganun. So, I think kailangan mag-ano pa. It's not just about celebrating the 100 years of cinema. This is the time to question why are there not a single woman in the roster of national artists for cinema. Daming question. This is the time to raise it. So for me, this is a very important time. Celebrate, let's critique it, let's question it. And there's also question why criticisms like that. Where are the women scholars? Why are women not writing criticism or even, publishing film books or essays? Ang hirap. I mean, that's coming from my perspective because I've been doing films. In fact, this year I'm on my 25th year as a filmmaker, and we need to cultivate the culture of criticism.
Yeah.
And I see the lack of the women's voice in filmmaking, in criticism, scholarship.
Well, the bright light for female filmmakers, I think, is actually documentaries.
Yes.
I think
and also, of course, in the studio.
In the studio,
Pero in the independent scene, hirap na hirap pa rin. Talking to Sir Ricky Lee, ang dami niyang magandang insight about how some of the scholars or the critics are actually changing their minds. Diba? Parang reviewing, even Joe David, who's based in Korea. Kaya maganda yung social media ngayon kasi in a way, kahit na hindi siya formal, nakikita mo yung exchange.
Yeah.
So there's more dialogue now, in private threads or in...
Yeah, I think what we're talking about is more like how that information is disseminated. Like we don't have the critics in the broadsheets like before, but I think they exist kasi ang daming informal, blogs or parang I guess private critics that are available.
Yeah, even these archives, this wonderful book, Anti-Bio Pro Bernal, by Angela Stewart Santiago. We've been waiting for the book. They've been working it for over 10 years, based from it's a very important book.
Yeah, I agree.
I wish that they finished the book before we made this map or even hiwalayan kasi talagang grabe yung material.
True.
So we need to get this kind of works and like this documentary or project that you're doing. We just need to set our, this is our mission, and the mission it's a sacred mission that we must continue to do. Not just about Brocka and Bernal, not just about the national artists, but even those who are forgotten filmmakers, even not just directors.
True.
I always ako medyo old-fashioned ako. The first thing that I tell them about Bernal is watch the films on the big screen. Please, it deserves to be shown, to be I think to experience his cinema in the big screen. Kasi talagang iba. The textures, the sound, the details of his cinema was so powerful na please don't watch it in your computers or your cell phones. If there's a chance for you to watch it. Like I remember you were telling me.
Full disclosure. I actually had not seen Himala until we were in New York, right? Of all places, I watched it in New York on the big screen. Of all places. And again, you have your preconceived notions of what is, diba? The famous scene. Okay. But I'll tell you, I saw it in a festival. So many screenings in a day. And Himala was dead center in the middle of the day. And I remember I saw the film with a bunch of critics based in the US. And I remember nakatulala ako. The power of watching Himala on the big screen was so strong. It actually knocked my original favorite #1 Filipino film of all time, which is by Brocka, off the pedestal. That's a very big moment for someone, as someone sa isang Brocka film na yon. And then parang, oh my gosh, I think I saw something that might have hit me even stronger. And I don't know why, right? And I remember that day, just doing screenings, right? So we were watching, after that I was watching another film with Ate Guy as well, which is also beautiful. But I remember thinking, as good as this film that I'm watching is right now, my mind is still in Himala. That's how strong the experience was. So I can't imagine if you're, a young person now watching on your iPhone or something, and you're distracted. Life comes in. You get a tweet, you get an Instagram thing, or you're not really focused. But when you see on this massive screen and you're totally involved in what's happening in that film, it's transportative. You're no longer here. So any good film should do it. You're just no longer here, right? You're transported to this barangay, this little town, Kupang, in the middle of the desert, right? And you're no longer. I was not in New York. You're not in Manila when you're watching this. It's amazing, and I think that's the most important thing to experience. That it's you also as an audience member have to give yourself to these films. Meaning you kind of have to respect it enough. You're gonna allot the time that it deserves, and you're not a lot the time, a lot the attention that it deserves from you, because then you'll be gifted with a lot back. I mean, and until now, it's still my number one. I mean, really, that's how strong that moment was, earth-shattering for me.
So for me as a film educator, I always tell my film students to really, as much as possible, watch as many films as you can. Bernal, Brocka, De Leon, and read the books, which is actually very hard to have access, which is very challenging. So I always show the films in in its entirety.
Yes.
So as much as possible, I try to avoid just giving them assignment like get a DVD. So talagang class screening, and then a lot of discussions. And then I make them really write a review, make a journal, para lang ma-process talaga nila yung experience nila watching these films. Kasi otherwise, like the millennial, they're so used to, scanning and just, they just skip the scenes, they move to another film, and then they go back to it. No, you have to watch it from the beginning to the end. Then that's how I do it. And I think that's why hanggang ngayon, I'm in love and inspired by filmmaking, is because I have this kind of respect and for the medium. And so we need to pass it on to the filmmakers. Which film?
Yes.
It's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah, because may tama sa akin ng himala talaga. First of all, it's about folk religiosity or faith, and it's about the corruption of the soul of the society, and it's about the deception of faith. And sa akin talagang life-changing ang experience ko watching that film. And that's how simple it was for me. And of course, I also met Bernal as a young filmmaker. Although I was with Brocka naman, iba naman ang experience ko sa kanya, I was his intern.
Yes.
For his very last film, sa kabila ng lahat. So I was very, I would say, masarap naman na at least.
You're so lucky
As a film student, I met Brocka and Bernal, And they were, I did not see I was in awe of them, So I wish I asked them a lot of hard questions back then, but of course I was also very scared. So, isa pang kwento, when Bernal died, he was placed here sa film center, and during the wake, there was a long line outside of this film center. Long line hanggang labas. Pila. Parang akala mo may sine, you know. So, lahat kayo, pipila ng matagal, and then pagdating sa stage, dalawa lang kayong aakyat. So, finally, when it was my turn to go up the stage, nandun yung kabaong ni Bernal. Okay. So, I was walking from stage left, and there was another person walking from stage right. Wow! Paglapit namin sa coffee, lo and behold, it was kidlat, tahimik. So, can you imagine, nakatingin ako sa kabaong ni Bernal, and there's kidlat, tahimik right next to me. Tapos, he was talking to Bernal. He was like saying all this. Actually, nakausap ko siya. Tapos, sa glass ng coffee ni Bernal, nandun yung face ni Bernal, and then the reflection of kidlat tahimik. So, parang nag-blend yung mukha nilang dalawa. Tumatay yung balahibo ka doon. So, I was just really, wow, parang what an experience. Seeing Bernal there, lying there in state, and then yung kidlat tahimik, lovingly talking to Bernal. And in that glass, nag-blend yung face nila. So, wow, it was, for me, a blessing to experience that. And I also went to the wake of Dino Brocka dito naman sa Protestant Church.
Yeah, that's right.
CRL, Church of the Risen Lord. I didn't know he was Protestant. I don't know if he was Protestant. Pero doon siya nakaburol, and it was ang daming tao.
Dami rin.
Daming tao, puno-puno. Maliit lang naman kasi yung CRL, so it was really packed. So I was able to attend, I was able to meet them and attend their, their own wakes. Because they touched so many lives. They changed so many lives, and they sa akin, like, very tragic yung death ni Bernal, ni Brocka, with car accident, East Avenue.
Very quite young.
And also, right before his car accident, I was with him mga 3 to 4 days before sa Magnatech when he was editing his film. So, can you imagine the shock as an intern to find out na hindi yata niya natapos yung film. Or George Arleg was editing it. I would ask the question of what's the problem in Philippine cinema, and how can we all fix this problem? I would love to hear. Although marami naman siyang sinabi, pero I think if only he can see us now, what do you think I mean, kung buhay si Bernal ngayon, parang I would love to hear him critique.
I can imagine.
Or conversely, parang it's not maybe what's wrong with cinema, or how can we still use cinema to address these societal problems, because they're back. Is there a way? Yeah, with a vengeance. So, how do you've been through it before? There's probably deja vu for you. So now that you have this context, what would you do differently if there's a possibility, on how to address this?
Or maybe, just to rephrase my question, it would be like, where did his courage come from?
Yeah.
In making those kind of films na very commercial, at the same time, meron siyang films na, paano nagawa yun? When he was, parang working as a co-owner or waiter sa kasado, I've been hearing about yung kanyang problems sa drugs, and I think that kind of humbled him, because it put him in touch with other important concerns. So I saw him surrounded by, poets, activists, with hindi showbiz. And I saw him in a different light. Dahil hindi sabi, serving beers, like serving the people, yung ganon. So he was witty and he was in a good mood. Hindi tulad usually ng impression mo na you're afraid of them. You're afraid of them. I saw him that kahit na hindi siya active noon, he was not really doing any project. He was very contented, he was very fulfilled. I think he did not prove anything anymore. So he was just there in a small hole in the wall, kasalo. He was not afraid to make very highly intellectual films. He was not afraid to change the game, to change the cinematic language. He was not afraid to show the European influences. He was proud of he was a very proud person who had a film education, and it did not stop him from practicing. And he was also teaching. He was doing so many things. So he was not just a film director. He was an activist. He was a teacher. He was a good friend. He was a collaborator. He was a critic. He was not just after, I think he was, he has this deep love for Filipino cinema, or cinema. So, and
he set the bar so high. I mean, I think that's it, because he wasn't just using his art to entertain, right? Diba? Sisikit nga niya yung lahat ng mga philosophical musings niya in those things, and challenging even the concepts. Diba? Relasyon. The querida is the bida. Those are really kind of controversial things to base works on, diba? So I think the thing was that the bar was set high, technically, craft-wise, even higher in terms of conceptualization and the kind of ideas. I think that's the biggest thing, because you can have a polished product, it doesn't really mean anything, right? But for him, it's like his polish was matched or surpassed by his intellect, that he was able to communicate. I think you're asking earlier, Brian, why are some people affected? I think that's one reason. It's like the messages that he was encoding got through.
His level of filmmaking is so high. It's really excellent. Wala siyang patapon na trabaho. Wala siyang ginawang basurang pelikula.
Yeah, I'll give an example of this. He did...
Daming ginawang pelikula, pero, maybe not as just as the other director. Walang basura.
No, exactly.
Because he has so much respect, not just for the craft, but also for his audience. That's why walang basura.
There's a great one, because he did... Everyone's doing comics, right? And he did one, El Vibra, which is from national artist Francisco Paching, right? And I remember when I was researching this thing, I was watching El Vibra, there was no credits at the front. I did not know who was directing this film. But I sat through this thing. I was like, oh my gosh, who did this movie? Because it's astounding filmmaking, right? I mean, it's epic, it's an adventure story, all this stuff historical. But why is this really, really good? And I couldn't articulate it why. And only after many credits, biglang lumabas yung pangalan, directed by Ishma. So imagine even for like what anyone else would make, like an adventure, parang entertaining kind of box office thing, he still put his full faculties 100% in there, and you really feel it.
Yeah.
You really feel it, diba? It's a comics movie, diba? Who would take that seriously? But he really did. So even though I think he has a different assessment of his film, like sa kanya kulang pa siya sa mga poetic, diba? Like for a comics movie to even think about that, right? At that time, it's like, wow, he's really pushing everything all the time. But even if he wasn't able to get for himself that, me as a viewer 30 years later, I'm feeling such power from this comic book movie. It's walang patapon, di ba?
I love what he said in the book, the Anti-Bio pro Bernal. I cannot exactly remember what he said, but he said something about, we're young, we're beautiful, we're making films, but the enemy is the dictator. So what he's saying is, go make your films, follow your, the desires of your heart, make your dream film, but make sure that you're grounded. Dapat you should be aware of what's happening in your country, what's happening to your people. But you go, you travel, I think it was just, kasi, in a way, film parang is a very magical, to be a filmmaker is to create magic. So what you say is, come on, you can go have fun, but make sure that when you're, at the same time you're creating magic, you're also aware of what's happening around you. So this, I think, what film students should always remember in their heart and their mind.
Yeah, it's a constant questioning, right? You're constantly questioning, you're challenging the assumption, even if it's dangerous, and using all your faculties to that end. Because film is such a powerful medium. It really communicates a lot.
Yeah.
And you better be, if you have the privilege to wield it, you better be saying something. You better be saying something.
For whom are you making this film for?